Alright, so we're gonna take a look at a few rounds from the grand final against Sprout, mostly on Train, and finally the absolute last round on Inferno. Just some rounds that I think proves real tactical insight on their behalf, and some stuff that I think we get to see way too little of in CS. Okay, so just to show where heroics sort of lie in form of the tactical side of the game, we're gonna start with the first round of the grand final, the pistol here on Train. Now, this round is actually pretty simple, and I actually just want to show a snippet, but it might be a bit longer than that. So we're gonna play a 1-4 pistol, we're gonna go double bomb Train, Snappy playing for himself Ivy, and Cadian getting into an off-angle E-box to play anti-exec, and Borb alone B. So this is an acceptable pistol, nothing out of the ordinary yet. What I really like just off the bat is Borb fighting solo B, and he's gonna wide this eventually. Just wanna pause before he takes the fight. And I really dig this, like the angle you have here, running cloud to upper, like this angle, it's really favorable to peek into and for a quick headshot, but more importantly, it also sells the impression that there's more people here. Like, especially when you run this on pistols, it's not unusual to have like a second guy's pools or sight or even like behind them here to get baited in or just to be support. So I really like this idea. We just play out. Borb is actually just gonna see Keto here, and he's going to die. And what I like is, you see, Stavon is actually gonna go to rotate here, but he doesn't. And we see that nobody else moves. You see, he even goes back to backbound trainer drop sign, I think. And eventually they're gonna commit B, and Snappy's gonna take info Ivy, that there's no hard lurk, and they're gonna try to run a retake. Now, obviously, they're not gonna manage this retake with Stavon dying there as well. So I just want to explain what I really like, or what I like so much. And like that whole thing of Stavon not rotating and not rotating anybody, it's actually a calculated risk. Like, it's something I don't think we see nearly enough of in CS, or at least in this way. You know what impression Sprout must have. They didn't insta commit, so it's much more favorable for you to just play 4 outside. Like, if one guy's gonna rotate, one guy just running in there here with no info about the site is not gonna do much good. And there's actually a really good chance that Sprout decides to re-exec outside. Because if you look at it from Sprout's perspective, naturally you would think that the CTs would have to put manpower inside. And with the fact that you already have man advantage, you would just say, alright, let's just exec against a weak defense on A. But, you know, obviously they had another read and they said even if there's a guy in there or 2 guys in there, let's just use the util we have and the man advantage and go. And anyway, I think it's maybe a bit of an overcomplicated explanation by me, but this way of thinking I really love the fuck out of, and I wish we would see more of it in CS. Alright, so we moved on a few rounds. Heroic lost a Force and an Eco. So 0-3 going into the first gun round. And we're actually just gonna take a look mostly at Cadian as he rotates from A, which is around here. Anyway, so as he's getting over, Borb's gonna hear a normal LG flash, a default flash, and then Speed is gonna throw a upper flash. Like that. So either because of this, or because they just have a read or guess it, or because prep, they suspect a lower pop might be in place, just as it is, obviously. So Cadian is going to play perfectly off that guess. First he's going to go to see if the pop is through the smoke. And when he realizes that it isn't, he's going to throw this flash. He says, fuck your pop, have it delayed. And this is going to buy him enough time to smoke the fade, and it buys him a leg shot. And obviously, just being a smart player, he goes as far back as he can on the spool to be able to drop off without dying. And this actually baits him Borup to take a peek, but he just kills one and does 90 on the other. And S-Tag dies as well, going up pop, leaving them in a 3 versus 4. And now Cadian once again is super smart. He thinks they probably aren't upper, and they're all going to be focused on my rotations or where I would reposition, which as an upper should be like in these backlines. So these guys are gonna do a sneaky boost to get one. Boosting really smart as well. Cadian gets into an unsuspecting position and kills Dennis. He's gonna go bomb train in here, Keto behind him. Good adjustment shot. And this just baits in Stavon. So just smart on the fly thinking by Cadian pretty much. And I think that even if you account, like they won a 3 versus 4 with a guy being leg shot and a guy being dinked, but I think even if you account for that or like count that in, the result is amazing. Like you have to look at this from a 3 versus 4 retake where your inner guy only killed one, and as soon as they had inner, like as soon as they had this area, your fast rotate, your pop guy was dead. And if you go away from a 3 versus 4 with 2 ops and saving this amount of utility, that's just amazing. So nothing I can say but applaud them. Another CD round on train and another pretty awesome round. We're gonna see heroic set up really interestingly on A. They're gonna play 2 body setups with Borup anchoring in there. So we're gonna get a guy in pop, a guy sidelines. Let's see, what the fuck am I doing? We're gonna see a guy pop, a guy sidelines, a guy hiding Ivy, and a guy taking contact, Ivy obviously. So this is just a good 2-2 setups, and like this is the kind of stuff you could use if you don't really have that organized of a train, or like your train isn't that coordinated, because obviously this way, since there are buddy setups, you are super set against both defaults and XX. Actually, this specific setup, although it's when you play 2 sidelines, like one guy here, or like one guy here, one guy here, I call it Shazam, like with the same Ivy setup. I don't know why, it's just something I like to call sometimes. Anyways, the downside of these setups is that you actually prefer to have the contact early. Like you much prefer to face a default than an exec, obviously. So we're gonna try to bait a bit of util. You see the Chosen Nate's decom, Borb smokes here. And eventually they're gonna smoke both Ivy and Pop. Now here's the interesting thing. So they just faced contact both at Pop and Ivy, and they smoked them off. And Heroic says, alright, we don't really like our chances at a standstill. Like when they commit, we don't know where it's gonna be, and it's gonna be a bit random. So we're like, alright, we want the outcome in our hands. So they're gonna decide to send Stavin through their own Ivy smoke. And he's gonna get one, and then dies, and he gets that info. And you wanna guess what they do next? They're gonna get Borb to dump all his util inner. And since they still have a pop guy, they're gonna decide to crunch to him. Like just walk up lower here. And I mean, I really like this. Like, I fucking like this. Like, this is obviously a big gamble, but you have to think about it. Imagine if you can get your whole team, like, M-pop in this situation. They can't go inner then, and it's a alright outside retake. But the thing you have to remember is that it's super unlikely that you won't take contact going this whole way, like with what you've seen. And if you don't take any contact here, you have so much more info you can fucking use. So they're gonna double walk up. Cadian's gonna fall back to Fallen. I think Fallen is here, by the way, if you didn't know. I think Cadian, yeah, kills it first. No, yeah, he doesn't fall, right? He's gonna try to surprise the other guy. But Keto kills him. I mean, that doesn't really matter, because look, like, at the power you have now. You have Cadian, Fallen. You have S-tag anchoring pop, or holding pop, I should say. And you have a guy moving into an off angle inner. Like, it's just really good, especially with 34 seconds left. Anyways, they're gonna go in. They actually do a really good job, because this guy's gonna live, and they're gonna go double inner. Snappy's gonna kill the first guy, and Keeter does a super fucking good job of dodging him and staying alive. But in the end, all Sprout are gonna do is waste time, because Cadian's gonna come here and just clean up. Yeah, so it takes them a bit of a long time to finish, but it's a 3 versus 0 finish nonetheless. And the most important thing, it's a run win. Alright, so we're in the absolute last round of the final here. Not perfect money for Heroic, but they managed to get 4 utils, which is Snappy being demoted to a UMP and Kadia not having any util on the up. So it's not a super bad buy, but they're gonna decide to play gimmicky for the entry. So they're gonna molly close, and Kaden is gonna pose for a second. And since they don't instant banana, they're gonna go up on this boost and just sit here. And I mean, this is a really good angle for the boost. You wouldn't expect anybody on this particular angle and it's certainly nothing that gets flashed. And what they transition into is super interesting. So he mollies to bail them out, just spams, and they're gonna give it, obviously. And they're gonna go into this setup with open rifle B, snappy close long, and double pit. And this is pretty much anti-everything, like obviously open rifle B and close UMP long, like I said. Like, Snappy is obviously taking the biggest risk here, but he's playing for 1 for 1, right? As long as Snappy gets his 1, you're comfortable. Like, in that case, if he dies, obviously, CT to B is open, as well as I'm obviously going to A. But you take CT to B. Like, in a 4 versus 3, you take it with an op rifle here, and you definitely take it with a double pit. So it's important that Snappy just gets his 1. He's actually going to be a bit unlucky because he wants to smoke, obviously to buy time for himself. But he gets a bit unlucky with the timing. And he's actually going to go down without any delay or killing everybody. So obviously these guys want to bait for each other, so SX going to smoke pit. And Borb is going to announce that he's there pretty much. He's trying to take this fight, he's going to nade. And then he's just going to wide, gets the first. He even gets the second, and it's a 4 versus 2 now. I think they get a kill switch at 3 versus 2, but he realizes that they're probably going to look for a fight or want to clear pit. So he just throws a good flash, and then he's going to wait for a fight. He gets that, and eventually, after all that, he gets traded, and Esther just peeks his head up and finishes it. Yeah, so I don't think there's that much to say to like cap it off. I don't know who you can credit this to like Snappy Eye gelling, Llama coaching, Kadian, who's probably second calling, but like this calculated risk CS, this approach to always wanting to put yourself in like untraditional but very rewarding positions, like I love it. Like the stuff Heroic has done in Atalanta, it's some of the stuff like I fantasize about when I watch pro games. Like you watch a game and you're like, all right, why don't they just do that? Why don't they just use the info they have and like in just a second analyze this risk and the IGL calls for that setup or this setup? And obviously in live games, you don't know what info they have, and there's only so much you can call and only so much you can coordinate and organize. But I want to just reiterate and say it again. What Heroic has shown is just mind blowing. It's amazing. I love this CS.